As the morning sun rose over the Parisian skyline, its amber glow bathed the city of lights in a warm radiance symbolic of the economic dawn that may be breaking over France and the broader Euro area. Fresh data released this week provided glimmers of hope amidst the economic gloom that has engulfed the region. For those of us who have chronicled the tribulations of the European economy with furrowed brows and fretful tones, the latest figures hinted at the first verdant shoots emerging from the frosty ground of recession, like a tender seedling timidly peeking through the soil in search of spring's nurturing rays. The 0.2% expansion of French GDP in the first quarter was a modest but significant development. Let's not be too effusive with our plaudits just yet. A 0.2% growth rate is hardly cause for unbridled jubilation or economic chest-thumping. It's a whisper rather than a roar, a gentle exhalation of economic vitality rather than a forceful exertion. And yet, within that seemingly unimpressive number lies the embryonic promise of larger growth to come. Like an experienced gardener surveying the first tender buds on a rosebush, those skilled in the art of economic analysis can detect the harbingers of greater flourishing in the underlying data. The revival of domestic demand was the fertilizer that nourished this fragile bloom of expansion. As the icy grip of inflation's chokehold begins to loosen, the French consumer stirs from a prolonged hibernation of restrained spending, their newfound disposable income yearning to be liberated into the economic ecosystem. Steadily, the regional landscape is shifting, with neighboring Germany also shrugging off its industrial malaise. The clouds of economic stagnation that have oppressively loomed over the continent are gradually dissipating, revealing fertile terrain primed for cultivation by the tools of accommodative monetary policy. The European Central Bank seems poised to embrace the role of economic groundskeeper, judiciously applying the nutrient-rich mulch of interest rate reductions in the months ahead. Just as a thoughtful gardener aerates the soil to foster deeper root growth, these monetary loosening should oxygenate capital flows and stimulate investment, providing the foundation for a thriving economic garden. Of course, it would be premature to declare total victory over the persistent scourge of inflation. France's consumer prices rose 2.4% year-over-year in April, defying expectations of a slowdown. Like a stubborn weed that refuses to be uprooted, the specter of rising prices lingers, its rhizomes potentially capable of choking off the economic blooms we so fervently hope to nurture. Yet, much like a meticulous gardener discerning between desirable flora and invasive species, we must parse the details with nuance. The stable gains in services prices, while still elevated, could portend a future moderation as the knock-on effects of past inflation gradually abate with the ECB's preemptive actions. As any agriculturalist will attest, patience and perseverance are paramount when coaxing new life from the soil. The economic sowing that President Emmanuel Macron's government has undertaken may require steadfast tending before it bears the full harvest of prosperity. Fiscal policies have been akin to tilling the economic soil, with deficit reduction efforts aimed at clearing away the stubborn brambles of public debt to allow new growth to take root. Yet, like any ambitious agricultural project, this process has met with difficulties and setbacks, leading to some thorny political confrontations. Opposition voices baying for new fiscal blueprints are akin to novice gardeners, demanding a redesign of the cultivated landscape before it has had a chance to mature and bloom. The sober voices of rating agencies like Moody's and Fitch serve as the economic agronomists, rationalizing a stay of execution while the seeds of recovery take hold. In the midst of this tumult, Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire has embraced the role of impassioned agriculturalist, heartily extolling the stubborn facts of renewed growth. Like an exuberant farmer reveling in the season's first sproutings, he boldly challenges the doubters to open their eyes to the verdant reality emerging in the economic terroir. Yet Le Maire's swagger is tempered by the realization that these green shoots, while promising, are still tender and vulnerable. The road ahead is pocked with potential pitfalls that could blight the crops before their full potential is realized. Unemployment remains stubbornly unbudged, akin to a parched field resisting even the most abundant hydration. Tax revenues have disappointed like a meager harvest, leaving fiscal larders less full than anticipated. Consumer and business confidence have proved fickle, alternately swinging between sunny optimism and overcast doubt as those tending the economic gardens await reassuring omens of bountiful days ahead. Across the borders, in the Netherlands, a similar phenomenon plays out, with inflation moderating like the midday heat giving way to an evening respite. A cooling of consumer price gains to 2.6% offers a tantalizing glimpse of the broader disinflation that could nourish spending and propel a more vigorous economic expansion. For those of us in the prognosticating business, the economic meteorologists of the analyst class, these latest readings are akin to the first fragrant breezes heralding the inevitable arrival of spring after a harsh winter. While future storms may buffet the economic landscape, the prevailing winds whisper the promise of renewal inherent in the perpetual cycle of economic seasons. Indeed, the Bank of France's own forestry service has augured that the verdant conditions currently unfolding will only deepen and intensify in the coming years as households shake off the last vestiges of inflationary frost and fully embrace the fertile potential of rising disposable income. 2025, they prophesy, could see consumption and investment blossoming in full vigor. Of course, any farmer will caution against premature celebrations before the harvest. Threats of blight, drought, and pestilence always loom. Yet, as we survey the economic fields before us, we cannot help but discern the first unmistakable signs that the seeds of recovery have taken root. Much like a tattered shepherd surveying the fertile expanse before him, battered by winter's cruelties yet uplifted by the unmistakable vibrancy of spring's renewal, those of us who have faithfully tended the narratives of economic turmoil can embrace a cautious sense of hope. The prolonged chill is giving way to warmer conditions, the persistent grays yielding to newly vibrant hues of possibility. So let us adopt the perspective of the seasoned agriculturalist who has witnessed the cyclical rhythms of economic harvests. Let us neither scoff at these modest seedlings as insignificant, nor herald them as the progenitors of boundless plenty. Rather, let us celebrate their mere existence as a portentous sign that the fields are fertile and ready for cultivation. With judicious stewardship from policy cultivators, a nurturing economic climate, and a dash of cosmic beneficence, these tender shoots could flourish into a bountiful harvest worthy of society's labors, or they could wither on the vine, composting into the fertile loam that gives rise to a new cycle of growth and dormancy. For now, let us embrace this fleeting moment of optimism, savoring the warm sunlight and gentle breezes that beckon new economic life from the fallow soils of stagnation. A patient vigil lies ahead as we discern whether these verdant stirrings presage a lush, vibrant future, or merely a cruel taunting of prosperity's mirage. As the celebrated philosopher farmers who came before us have intoned, the green blade riseth. Whether this fledgling growth ultimately withers or reaches its full flourishing remains to be seen. But for those with the patience to tend the economic gardens, the delight lies in simply bearing witness to the eternal cycles of economic renewal as they perpetually unfold across the fields of human endeavor.